Yeah, I bought this with the money that I robbed from the bank. And that is how stupid people are, because people think doing this is a very smart idea, and then they get caught, and then they think, oh, why did I get caught in the first place? Well, it was probably because you did not maintain a low enough profile after you committed all these crimes. Role models are for everyone, and everybody has them at different points of time, and it doesn't always stay the same. When you were young, those role models were probably your parents. And as you grew older, it probably changed into people that you were meeting in real life or influencers that you see. But regardless, there's always somebody that you look up to, that you put as your standard, the one you want to emulate. But even then, have you thought of the saying that you can find good things even in the worst of times, in the worst of people? But how often have you actually implemented that? Have you ever looked at somebody that you didn't agree with and thought, maybe there is some positive that I could maybe introduce into my own life? Sometimes we are not open to the fact that even people we dislike might teach us something that we really need to know about. And that's exactly who we are covering in today's video, one such person named Charles Lucky Luciano. Now, you'll get to know why he was called Lucky. And he happened to be one of the starters of something that you all know, the MAFIA. He is the one who initiated the whole process. Though this is an infamous thing to be famous for, there's actually a reason why I chose him in particular for this video, because you learn a few things which you might not learn from every single person out there, which was probably exclusive to him. And let's get into the video right now. Now, probably by the name you understand that he was an immigrant. So he was actually born in Sicily, and then he moved with his parents when he was very young to America in a pursuit of the American dream, right? The positive life that was there in America. But they didn't know what was actually waiting for them there, because this happened to be in the early 1900s, because he was born in 1897. They happened to go to New York, which was probably one of the worst places they could go, because what happened in New York back then was there was a flood of immigrants from all over the world, from Morocco, from Italy, everywhere that you can imagine. And eventually it was too much for the New York population to take care of, right? Because they had their own people as well. And then they had these immigrants too. So it just became too much that New York pretty much collapsed during that time. So even his parents had to do with very little, and that's all they could manage. And even when he was growing up, he grew up among petty theft and crime, and that is how they made their living. Because when you have that many people competing for resources, for limited resources, you have to have that edge. You need to be doing something that most people are not doing. And even though they were thieving as well, he had to be the best, right? And that is where this whole pursuit for success started, because from petty thievery, he then graduated on to more complex crime. And eventually he became the boss of New York. And how did he become the top boss? Well, because he had an associate called Salvatore Maranzano. And he and a few other colleagues plotted a hit on Maranzano and eventually then took over as the bosses of New York. Because while they were all in it together, Luciano was regarded as the head. So he became the bosses of the bosses, primarily all over New York. But once Luciano took over, he made sure that the 5 most influential and richest families in New York took over, and that they would become the starters of the mafia. And these 5 families, even to this day, rule New York's underworld. Now, you might say that, okay, well, Luciano was in the line of crime, and maybe it's not the best idea to look at what he did. But you're gonna see, while he became successful for the wrong reasons, you still see a trend of why he became successful. There's a reason why certain people become successful, and you'll see that only with a certain group of people. And this has to do with the partnerships they have. But in Luciano's case, that's not the only thing. He did not just maintain relations, but it's rather who he maintained relationships with and how he was not compelled to. In fact, he went totally against the grain of what was happening normally. Because let's take, for example, his closest associate, who was there from the ghetto all the way to his success. His name is Meyer Lansky. And he was there throughout his whole journey. But the way that they met was actually pretty peculiar, because Meyer Lansky, who was probably 3 or 4 years his junior, he was a 12-year-old boy and Luciano was a much older boy. And how they met was, Luciano used to be in a gang who used to just torment people around him. And so they started picking on a group of little kids. But in that group of little kids, 12-year-olds, happened to be Maya Lansky. And Maya Lansky stood up and actually questioned them, why are you doing this? And this was a trait that Luciano actually found pretty interesting, because he's seen that most people don't usually stand up, and in fact they just give whatever money they have, whatever food they have, and they just concede. But him, on the other hand, he was actually interactive. He was a bit more challenging. He opposed the thought that Luciano and his gang tried to put on them, and he found this to be very, very fascinating, that he actually brought him on board. So think of that, somebody that you were trying to bully eventually became one of your closest assistants and one of your close trusted friends. The Italian American society back then never used to interact with the Irish and the Jewish as much. In fact, they used to avoid them at all costs. But what Luciano did was that he started trading with them, had discussions with them, and actually brought them into the ring. And this actually helped him more than everybody else, because he had the edge over other people, because Jewish were rich, the Irish were rich, everybody who was there in America was rich. So when you make connections with these kind of people who are basically outcasts, people that your kind do not interact with, that's when you get the edge. Because even if you feel you're going against the grain, people might not like you for it. Sometimes you need to make those decisions which people might not agree with. That strengthened his network, his hold within the Italian American society and within the New York underworld. This is what you have to remember. Or you don't have to worry about breaking cultural barriers and the things and norms that people set for you, because regardless, you're gonna have to break them at some point, and it's all up to you to choose when you want to do that. Do you want to do that now, or do you want to end up regretting that later? And that's your call. And now we'll discuss why he was called Lucky Luciano. Why and where did this lucky term come from? He happened to have one of his prison sentences, which they said that it normally takes about 30 plus years to get out of. He got out of it in 9. And he escaped so many assassination attempts as well. Even in the case of how he rose from the slums, all the way from the ghetto, all the way to the top. Even there, you see that there are many stories where luck really came to him at the right time, and if that hadn't come, maybe he wouldn't have been successful. But now you might be thinking, okay, that's not a quality. And yeah, I agree with you. That's not a quality. That's hardly anything. But what you have to learn is not that success requires luck, but rather, while luck comes to you, you need to prepare yourself for the best opportunity to capitalize on the opportunity of luck. Because chance and luck are probably the two most important things. And while you wait for them, you have to make yourself adept enough that no matter what, when that comes, you are going to strike. You're like a viper, you're waiting for that opportunity, and when that comes, you strike. And once you strike, that is when you capitalize, and from there, you don't look back. That is what Luciano did. Because in certain scenarios, it looked like he was doomed. I can't lie, it looked like he was doomed. But the thing that Luciano keeps doing, regardless of everything that happens, is that he prepares himself for the next opportunity to arrive. Till then, he knows what to do, and he knows that if I get the next chance again, I'm going to take it. So, till then, he's always preparing, because some things are just luck. Some things are not always lucky, but they're actually strategic. Strategic planning does bring what normal people call luck. And Luciano was always clever enough to make sure that he did not lose his control over power. That his power did not turn into a greed for power, a lust for power. In fact, he always kept a control. And he knew when to step away from the limelight. When things were getting bad, he stepped away, lived a calm life, and that was it from there. And that's actually a problem that many people have, even in today's society. Even people that you see on streaming platforms, I do not understand how stupid they are. I've seen people pull up guns on live streams. Like, bro, what do you think is going to happen when you pull up a gun on live streams and you are in a state where guns are illegal? And they don't use their brains, because the only thing that they think about is views. I need the views, I need the likes, so I just need to go viral. And what's the best way to do that? Well, I know. Why don't I just pull up a gun live on stream and show people that, and that's probably going to blow me out viral. People think this is actually a good idea to rat themselves out, and that's going to give them some views, some clicks. Maybe the police might be watching. Maybe somebody might be watching that they can get caught that easily. And many have been caught, but they don't use their brains. It's the same reason why you think even robbers, why do most robbers get caught? Well, some people do escape with what they've won. When they've robbed a bank, let's say, and they've looted maybe $2-3 million, they're not patient enough to hold the money that they have, but rather they're just so eager to spend it on a lavish lifestyle and live the life that they've been dreaming right now that they cannot wait for a later day, and they just put themselves in the limelight. And it's like me putting a sign saying, hey guys, I've robbed a bank. Yeah, you see the clothes that I'm wearing? Yeah, I bought this with the money that I robbed from the bank. And that is how stupid people are, because people think doing this is a very smart idea, and then they get caught, and then they think, oh, why did I get caught in the first place? Well, it was probably because you did not maintain a low enough profile after you committed all these crimes. Because in Luciano's case, he knew that he did a lot of bad stuff. But once he was done, he was done. He knew where to stop. There are many people who have committed crimes but do not get caught sometimes because they have this in their mind that no matter what, I should not blow my cover. Whatever it is, keep that cover closed and make sure nobody notices what I've done, or nobody can catch me on one of my faults. Because the second that they catch you, you are finished. And so here's the things that we learned from Luciano's life. First thing is that you probably have to build bridges sometimes that you never thought you'd have to build. Things that you might have seen before, people that you didn't really like before, but you might have to build connections with them for the greater good. And the second thing is that while luck is very important for success, you have to make yourself adept enough that when that opportunity for luck comes, you take that opportunity no matter what and you do not let it slip. And the third thing is that you have to remember, sometimes you might have to leave at the top. It's not always that you can ride that wave of success forever. Sometimes there's always going to be that ebb. And before your downfall starts, you have to leave at the top. And that is what successful people do. They do not ride it all the way and squeeze every ounce of money, every ounce of success from your venture. But rather, when you're near the top, you should know when it's time to leave. When you've ridden it for a while, you know that the downfall is going to start. Leave right there. And that's what we learned from Luciano's story. And it's very inspiring. And I'd actually recommend it to all of you guys to go and watch a documentary about him right after this, because there's a lot I haven't covered in this video yet. But when you hear his story, you're going to see how such a boy who was in the ghetto actually rose to one of the most powerful people in probably American history. Well, so far the video has been about Luciano this, Luciano that. But actually, this video hasn't been about Luciano, but rather what Luciano represents. What is he representing? A person that you might dislike, despise, someone whose thoughts you might not really agree with. But regardless, there are some things that if you replicate in your own life, you could see an improvement. But sometimes we are hesitant to look at what people that we dislike do, because maybe it's because of society's norms, or maybe we just feel guilt for looking up to that person that we dislike. Maybe it's our brain saying, do not look at him because we do not like him. And that is why I'm going to give you an actionable step that if you guys take right now, it's going to improve your lives. So the first thing I need to do is going to be very easy. Just think of somebody, whether it's online or in person, somebody who really pisses you off, or somebody you don't agree with on anything. And take this person, right? Close your eyes right now and think of this person in your head right now. Right? You got him? Okay. Now you think of that person and think of what he says and what he tries to portray. Yeah. So if you've got this, now I want you to see what are the positive and the good things that he tries to say that you might be ignoring right now. Well, have you figured that out? Well, maybe you haven't. And if you haven't, I want you to do this. So the next time that you see him in person, I want you to focus only on the positives. Look out for any small good thing that you see in him. Right? Something that is going to bring maybe joy to you, or something that is going to be helpful in your own life. Bring that out. And when you start focusing on this very aspect in every single person you meet, your life actually gets better, because you're going to learn lessons that you have never learned from other people. Just because you expanded your horizon of understanding, because you're welcoming more opinions. Because that is why we sometimes miss out on things, because we are closed-minded. Sometimes we think this person will do, that person will do. We don't want anybody else. Just these two people will do. But when you do that, even the exposure that you get is so limited. So what you have to do is just expand that horizon, open up your mind to new thoughts, new ideas, and you're going to learn much more than you've ever learned before. And so with that, we come to the end of this video. And if you guys like this as much as I did, then go ahead and drop that like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notifications bell. And go ahead and share it with your friends, your family, anybody who you think really needs to hear this message to go and change their lives forever. And go ahead and drop a comment in the comments box about something you guys thought about this video or something you guys would like to see me talk about in a future video. And with that, I'll leave you all and see you all in the next video. And remember, never stop dreaming. See you all.
Take me for granted and you know I'm leaving. I'ma take what's mine with the webs I'm weaving. I could take this crowd from seeing to believing. Gotta